Hello and welcome back, and we're working on a Subaru today. Why are we working on a Subaru today? Well, my wife is a huge GD WRX fan, and we're working on her 2004 WRX. And I figured I'd make a little video because I'm already working on the car, and I don't think this will take that long, but let's see how it goes. Everyone's going to run into this. This isn't just a WRX problem or a Subaru problem. I've done this millions of times on Hondas and Acuras. They have the same issues. All makes and models have this. They get old, they get corroded. Trying to get bushings that are a mixture of rubber and metal and thin sleeves that go through other metal components often rust, they corrode, they become nearly impossible to push out. They make you want to consider your life choices. The job that you thought was going to take you an hour takes you 3 days. You're fighting with everything you have, every tool you have. But I want to try and make this a little bit easier for you. So I'm going to go through how I push bushings out, how we take them apart, and how I attack it in a way that sets me up to be successful. So yes, this is about a WRX, but this is also about anyone who wants to take on a bushing on a vehicle and how to get it out and be successful and set yourself up to be successful. So in front of us, we have the rear knuckle off the 2004 WRX. Now this one I've already media blasted and powder coated and it's looking beautiful. Just have to clean up the bearing housing before we put this back together. And no, that's not the bolt that came out. That is. Well, it's one of them. One of them's cut in pieces. So why is this a problem? Well, for one, Subaru has a bolt going through this control arm that is exposed all the way along here, which lends itself to a massive amount of corrosion. Is it the best idea? Probably not. But again, every manufacturer does it differently. Sometimes they get it right, sometimes they get it wrong. I don't know that there is any perfect way to do this, honestly. You give metal enough time to corrode, and you are going to have an issue. So, we have this knuckle, we have the bolt, we have this lower link, we have the other lower link that goes through there, and then it's tightened together. So with this all in the car, it's really hard and awkward to get these apart. So we're going to assume you've tried, you have put some PB Blaster on there, you've soaked it down overnight, you've got it up on jack stands, you're getting ready to take it apart. You take the nut off, you go to try and push this, it's not going anywhere. So after that, you put the nut back on, you start smacking it with a hammer, it's not going anywhere. You go and get a ball joint C-clamp press, you try and push that through, it's not going anywhere. You're fighting in an awkward position, you're not having a good time, it's unpleasant, so let's change where we're working. Instead of fighting with this on the vehicle, let's fight with this on our territory, on the bench. And this is what I always try to do with these. Stop fighting in an awkward position with something that is setting you up for failure. What we're going to do here is often, I don't remember exactly what the orientation of this was, but often there are washers in between these items. If there are, it makes for a really good guide to run a die grinder or a Sawzall through. And if you don't have a washer there, sometimes I will put some sort of a drift or a punch or a screwdriver just to spread that distance apart. And often you can press it so that the rubber gives you some flex, and you're going to cut through the rubber and through the inner bushing and then through the actual bolt, just so that you're not damaging the knuckle and you're not damaging the link. Nobody wants to just spend money on replacing OE parts. You probably want to spend your money on something more exciting than that, so try not to damage them. So we're going to try and split this apart just a little bit, cut through it, and then we'll end up with this, where we've cut that off. So now we can pull that out. That's left there. If we can now push this bolt through, we'll push it through. One of them did come out for me. The other one did not. So then you will go to the other side. You'll hack the other side off. Then you'll have both links off. You'll have the knuckle free. Take it all out. Take it to your territory, the bench. And now you can work on pressing this piece out of the knuckle, which a punch and a hammer will do just fine. Punch that out. You have the knuckle. It's free. Clean it up. do what you want to do with it. And then you have these links. And these links look like they've suffered years of corrosion. And they've just, become one. They have become one. So now we're going to talk about how we're going to get this bushing out of this link without damaging the link, and doing it in a way that's not going to make us question our life choices. So yeah, my biggest advice to anyone who's trying to take these apart is stop fighting it on the vehicle. If you can take the piece off the vehicle, take it off the vehicle, bring it to the bench, get yourself a drink, have a snack, get a game plan together, and then attack it from here. Don't fight it on its turf, fight it on yours. So hopefully that's just a quick little tidbit on, how to get through this without questioning your life choices on the driveway. So let's get to pushing some of these bushings out. And that was just a quick overview of what we're working on and what I had to do to get to this point. So let's get started. Okay, what we're going to do now is cut away some of the rubber bushing here so that we can expose the actual ring of metal that we're going to press against, because we want to get as much of a mating surface as we can when we're using a press so that it doesn't veer off course or spontaneously explode on us. So I find the easiest way to do this is just to take a knife and you can just cut around without taking your finger off. And once you get it trimmed, you can just peel it off like that. And it'll give you a nice exposed surface that we're gonna press against. And sometimes I'll even go around, put on a roll lock. There we go. Don't mind the dust. So now that we've cleaned that surface up, we can go and take an appropriately sized socket, put it on there, get a nice seal, nice mating surface, so we can now press that bushing out. Okay, before we hit the press, I just want to take a couple minutes to give you a few tips and tricks that I've learned throughout the years. Many people will know these, but if you're someone who's new to doing this, this will be coming in vital for you, because there is often a mistake that's made by everyone, including myself, the first time you give this a go. And that is to select a socket for your bushing that we've cleaned it all up. Fits over there, looks good, looks like it's going to be perfect, but we often do not consider the expansion of the rubber as it comes through, and the thickness of the sidewall on the socket, especially if you're using an impact socket. A lot of them have a thicker sidewall. Even if you use a chrome socket that you think is the appropriate size, they might have a slightly thinner sidewall, but you might run into the same problem, which is you push this through and then it gets stuck. Now, you can often flip it around, put it in a vise, smash it through with a punch, but there are some other options that I figured I would give you. One, select a socket that's bigger, give yourself a little space. Two, at some point in time, if you get to the point where you start buying other tools, you can get a set of these tubes, which are used for ball joints and all sorts of different things, and you can find an appropriate sized one for it. Or three, my favorite thing is making tools. Now, I keep all sorts of bearing races, inner and outer, because these things, one, they're super, super strong. They're precision machined, and they work really well for pushing bearings and seals and bushings as well. So keep these around. If you do wheel bearings, take them out, clean them up, put them in a drawer. You'll always have them, and then you will have a far superior pressing device over a tube or anything else. I mean, unless you have a really expensive set of these, but these are very high quality on your wheel bearings, so keep them. And of note, because I'm working here on my wife's 2004 WRX, I'm doing the whole bunch of stuff on the rear end. These trailing links, that bushing that we're going to be replacing, the rear wheel bearing inner race is the perfect size to be pushing through. It gives you lots of room to push this through. So that's what we're going to use to do this. And as you see, it goes in really easily. So that should come out really easily. So that's what we're going to use. So that's just one tip. If you're going to push these, make sure you're using an appropriate size socket or receiver or tube or bearing race, just so that you don't end up in the position where you have jammed that bushing into the socket. It's not the end of the world. Sometimes if these are an inner metal piece, a rubber piece, and an outer metal casing, they can be a very, very big pain in the butt to get out of that socket. So think about that before you start pressing. All right, let's take this all to the press and let's get this last bushing pushed out of that one. All right, we've moved over to the press, and I figured I'd take a couple minutes just to speak about the whole procedure, just for those who are new to this, and some, again, tips and safety tricks, just so that people are safe and can do this effectively. So with these rubber bushings on the outside, no outer metal sleeve, generally, some of them you can get away with pressing out with an arbor press. This is a little bit more than I could press out with my 3.5 ton arbor press. So we're going to move up to the next tool in the arsenal, which is just a small 12 ton bottle jack press. Super useful tool. If you're going to work on cars, you're going to do stuff, you should get one. They're not very expensive. You do not need an expensive 30, 40, 50 ton press. I do have a 30 ton, but I rarely use it. This little press I've had for 20 years. And it has done everything that I ever needed it to do. It's light, you can move it around, it always gets the job done. Very, very often do I need something bigger than this. So if you have one, this is what I would suggest using, because the arbor press won't cut it. We're going to use this smaller, medium-sized 12-ton bottle jack press. So when we use one of these, we want to be really careful about how we line up the load. And every time you add an additional component in that direction of travel, you add an opportunity for something to go flying off in any direction if you're not careful and if it's not properly aligned. The less items you use, the safer you will be. So try and limit the amount of spacers you have in there. Try to shim up from the base if you can, to get up to the actual pressing head. But if you need the space, you can stack stuff, put it together. Just be very careful that it's aligned nice and tight and in the right space. Give it a good shake, put some pressure on it, make sure it's all going down through the stack nice and true. You don't want anything flying off. Wear safety glasses as well. I recommend that when you're doing this, just move your body to the side of the press, so that if you do get something flying off, it's going to hit the arm on the side and not you. Now, taking a socket to the leg is not the end of the world. It does hurt. It has happened. But you do not want it in the face. Don't put your face around here. Once you've got pressure applied, stand to the side and keep pressing until you've got it all the way through. If this stack misaligns at any point during your press, stop. Don't keep going, okay? Don't hurt yourself. Let the pressure off, realign the stack, and then continue. It's going to take you 30 seconds to do, but that 30 seconds can save you a whole lot of pain and misery. So just make sure it's always driving the force through the stack straight. Okay, so we have that lateral link in here. We've cleaned the surface. We've got our socket here to press it through, and we're using those wheel bearing races to press into. So now that we've got it all aligned, we've had a little talk about safety. Let's press this thing out, because it doesn't normally take a lot to push these out. The ones that take the most amount of force are the ones that have a metal inside, a rubber middle, and a metal casing on the outside. This is just a metal inner bushing and a rubber outer bushing. So we're going to start pushing this through. You can just see it going through. This little press wobbles around a little bit, but the stack is fine. You can see it's not moving. The pressure is going through straight. It's not taking a ton of force on this jack either. So just give it smooth, steady pressure, and it's gonna pop through, and then this arm is gonna go loose. And oh, there we go. So you can just finish driving it through. You can see that's loose like that. So now we're just gonna let the pressure off the bottle jack. It will go back up. You can take out the socket. You can take out the arm. There we go. That bushing is pressed right out, nice and clean. We didn't damage any of the housing. And if we put this down, you can see it presses right through there. It doesn't get stuck. There is the rubber bushing. As you can see, it's rubber on the outside, and then it has the metal inner piece. So those ones press out pretty easy. Normally, to press these ones that have the rubber that go through any sort of a link, I find that if you have anywhere from 3 to 5 tons, these will push through. It's really the ones that have the metal casing on the outside, which I'm going to do one of those for you in a video after this. Those ones often take 10 tons, sometimes even a little more. So if you have a 10 to 15 ton bottle jack press, that is going to do pretty much everything that you will ever need to do with a car. It's very rare that I ever have to use the 30 or the 50 ton. So there we go. We pushed it through. Now we're going to clean these up. I'm going to powder coat them after we media blast them, and then we have a set of bushings on the way. We're going to press those in with the arbor press and then put them back on the car. But this is just showing you the operation of how to remove those bushings. So I hope you've learned something. I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, all the best.